Okay, some time ago, MDOT contacted me regarding the double track, called the double track project, and offered to come make a presentation so that everybody's kind of on the same page as far as what's going on. Ryan Hohenstad and Mike DeBoer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, thank you again, you guys, for allowing me to, and my colleague, to present here. I'm just going to be giving a real
Pick your microphone up, please.
Just turn it towards you.
There you go.
Yeah, then that way it'll pick up from you. Good.
I'll just be doing a real broad overview of the project as a whole. This project that we're talking about specifically affecting your area is a small subset of a very large overall project, which is the Michigan Accelerated Rail Corridor Program. My apologies, you guys, back here with the font size, but in 2012, MDOT saw an opportunity and acquired 135 miles of rail line from Norfolk Southern between Kalamazoo and Dearborn, Michigan, that serviced the Wolverine Amtrak passenger rail because of the potential for an accelerated rail corridor program that could happen where we could increase the speed of the line up to 110 miles per hour, making it more advantageous for passenger rail service interstate from Detroit to Chicago. Everyone knows the conditions of our roadways nowadays, and being able to take the stress off of the traveling public, having the ability of Wi-Fi connection on the rail cars itself makes it very advantageous as long as we can provide a reliable and safe service. So what we actually ended up doing is that we broke it into 4 areas. One of the 4 areas was this Dearborn to Ypsilanti, which we call Section 2. This is a very, very tangent or straight section of track. However, it's very densely populated. We have 18 grade crossings that Mike will be talking about here shortly that we're going to be reconstructing, including Beach, Daly, and Gully Road, that are in poor condition, to say the least. But the project is currently ongoing. The project description is that we are going to improve 17.7 miles worth of track from essentially Ypsilanti to Dearborn. It includes reconstruction of the 18 grade crossings I spoke of and approximately 9 miles worth of new secondary mainline track from Wayne to Dearborn. That allows us to have a independent track system for freight and then another one for passenger, so that we have flexibility in the line that a freight train that needs to service our much needed automotive industry or any other carriers on the line without being interrupted by passenger service and vice versa. So this project as a whole, it was designed from 2012 till spring of 2014. The project was advertised in the summer of 2014. Railworks Track Services was awarded the contract of $19.56 million on September 10th of 2014. Construction, immediately after all of the necessary documents and specifications were received, we started construction. And our contract completion date is very aggressive. However, it is still on track for November 1st of this year. And then just to kind of highlight the need for it is, like I had said, the grade crossing ride quality is always an issue. We've had several complaints about the current existing conditions of these grade crossings. We've actually unfortunately had some vehicle damage that we've been informed of, and rightfully so, they need to be addressed. So with that, we want to be able to provide a reliable grade crossing surface, which is going to be a concrete crossing panel precast with concrete edge plate or steel edge plates around it to protect against the snowplow strikes. And it allows us as the railroad entity, or Amtrak, our maintainer, I guess I should say, to open up the grade crossings if need be quickly and then put them back into service so that we limit the amount of service outages. So the impact to both the rail and the vehicular travel is lessened. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mr. DeBoer. First off, my apologies. This is just kind of a gross overview of some of the major items of work. Again, I don't want to hammer on this too hard, but the 18 grade crossings, the 2 that affect your community are the ones that we're going to kind of highlight more on. But there's a lot of great things that are happening along this project to hopefully enhance both the passenger and the freight service of our corridor.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you again for allowing us to be here this evening. I'll conclude tonight just talking about our current project status, as well as the work we're going to do on Beach Daly and Gully grade crossings there, as well as talking about each grade crossing individually in the detour plan. So our current project status, right now the earthwork and the pre-ballast work, that's about 95 to 98% complete. You might have seen that ongoing all winter long. It was a long, hard winter, but we, again, with this aggressive schedule Ryan talked about, we're pulling it off. Right now we are on schedule. The contractor is delivering and setting ties. If you look down the right away of the railroad that's ongoing, you'll be able to see the bundles of ties laid out, as well as being spaced out for the future new rail line. After the ties are laid out, the rail gets threaded onto the new ties. There's this simple machine called the MPR machine. We also have some specialty track work that's over in Dearborn. If you look just to the west of the station, there's crossovers. That allows for train movements from main to main access to the new station. We don't have a lot of that right here in Dearborn Heights, but the closest location of that is over in Dearborn, just to the east of here. Of course, tonight we're here to talk about the reconstruction of the grade crossings. A little more on that later on Beach Daly and Gully Roads. The last thing the contractor will be doing before they leave here this fall is putting the final surface on the track. So they use a machine called a tamper. It actually squeezes the ballast material underneath the ties and puts the final profile onto the railroad, makes it look all nice and smooth when they're all done. The last thing we have is coordination with Amtrak's signal contractor. Amtrak is our overall maintainer of a railroad that Ryan mentioned. They have a signal contractor. They're doing 2 things. They're signalizing the new track as well as relocating the grade crossings, or relocating the gate mechanisms at the 18 grade crossings. The signal work, it's kind of hard to see. If you look down the right away, you might be able to see it a little bit. That's what controls the trains. But what you will see is that gate mechanism that's currently in place. That will be moving about 15 feet to the north to make room for the new track. So that's the current project status. And Ryan touched on this, I'm preaching to the choir. The grade crossings are in fair to poor condition, right? There's no need to spend any more time on this. We're here to make it a better place. So this next slide here are some pictures taken on the west side of the state, some work we did last summer. On the left is what it looks like out there right now. The HMA is all crumbled up. And on the right is what Ryan was talking about, these concrete panels. They're great for heavily trafficked truck volumes, as well as for future maintenance needs of the railroad. They're easy to take up if there's an issue with the ties or if we have a broken rail, but they're also great for, again, the vehicular traffic as well as the heavier truck traffic. Okay, in conclusion here, we'll talk about Beach Daly. That is anticipated for closure in early July and anticipated to reopen in late July. These dates are tentative. We're working on a few things over in the city of Wayne, working a few things out with the city as well as Norfolk Southern. But we just want to get a general feel out there for when these grade crossings would be closed for a period of a few weeks. Before these are closed and detoured, a traffic advisor will be sent out, again, about 2 weeks beforehand. Mr. Zimmer here has offered to be a liaison with that process. So if there's any major concerns while the crossings are detoured, please call 911 if something is very wrong. But if there's any minor issues, please use Mr. Zimmer as a liaison. But we do have a 24/7 contact if a thunderstorm comes through or if signs get knocked down by a truck or something. We have means and mechanisms to get those back in place as soon as possible, even if it's in the middle of the night. The last thing we had with the detours, our pedestrians are urged to follow this detour. That's the big hot button with our client, the federal government, this year. When these detours are posted, they might not make sense to detour people around a mile, but we're going to have a huge gaping hole there, 3 to 4 feet deep. We cannot have people in there, especially at night, and with sharp objects such as rail and plates and spikes and loose ballast material. It's not a good combination. So please, pedestrians are urged to take that detour when it is posted. Okay, in Gully Road here, more of the same. That will be the second crossing the contractor will do. That is anticipated for closure in late July and opening in early August. Again, these dates are tentative. We'd like to get them pinned down here shortly, but it's all dependent on what we're doing now, a few cities to the west over in the city of Wayne. Again, the traffic advisor will be sent out to police, fire, and EMS 2 weeks beforehand. Mr. Zimmer here offered to act as a liaison if there's any issues with that. Again, we have this 24/7 contact list. If there's any issues that arise on weekends or in the evenings. If there's any general questions, the detour you need to work out, my name and number is on here. But that's working out as we speak. And again, pedestrians are please urged to follow this detour. It's just with everything going on there and the different signal people and track people, it's not a good combination for them. With that being said, that takes us to the end of our presentation. We again want to thank you for having us here this evening. We can take any questions if anybody has some.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, I was telling the gentleman here, 2 weeks ago, I got invited to a group called Best Michigan, and it is a rail and bus service enhancement that is being looked at from downtown Detroit to the University of Michigan area. And so they'll be having public hearings. I'm going to try to get them for my TV show. And in fact, we could probably couple this in with the show or have one of them come back for it. But the idea is there would be a train service for part. Also, there'll be service, and it goes along the Michigan Avenue corridor until it gets to Ypsilanti. And then it doglegs through to Washtenaw Street, because there's just, that Michigan Avenue goes towards Salina in that area. But they're talking about, and they're going to have a bunch of public hearings, and we've been invited to be on the committee, and so I chose the policy, and I have Ron Eamon on the technical group that they've established. But as that proceeds too, I think this dovetails. If you need to go to Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, or Chicago, this is the route you want to go for local traffic. But the way it was sold was, for those of us who want to go to a sporting event, it would make more sense to take that train into downtown Detroit than go to your Red Wing game, your Tiger game, or whatever event you want to go to. And then in the same way that if you need to get out to the Ann Arbor way, that would be a thing. There will be a substation. I know they talked about at Merriman for people who want to go to the airport, but you will be bused from Michigan Avenue to the airport. There is no call for a train service. But we'll keep you involved with that. I went to a kickoff meeting 2 weeks ago, and I think this is great. I have commented, I was asked, and I will tell you that when I travel to major cities, I don't rent a car. You don't need a car in downtown Washington, D.C. There's no place to park it. New York or some of these other metropolitan, Chicago.
Places, yeah.
It makes no sense to have a vehicle, and the public transportation is really great, unlike our geographical location. So it looks like we're finally starting to get to where we need. I compliment you in any way we can, shape, or fashion. We'll be supportive.
May I, Mr. Chairman? I just want to add, I think the mayor's, what you're talking about too is tied into the My Train, the commuter rail that we visited about, what I'm talking about a year and a half ago. And I'd love to see that come to be realized, because they're talking about the connectivity from downtown Detroit up through Chicago, from my understanding, and eventually, if it's feasible and it works, viable, it will branch out to Lansing and other locations through the state of Michigan. I thought was the goal, and it was a very reasonable price for people, and reliable, safe transportation, handicap accessible as well. So this is exciting news. So great, thank you for sharing with us. Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else?
It's kind of very evident on you had touched on the handicap accessibility, the new Dearborn Intermodal Center. That is right now on the current fleets that Amtrak runs is not compliant with handicap accessibility, but that is in preparation for a new fleet of trains for the Midwest. That will hopefully be rolling out here in the next couple of years, which will really kind of bring all of our service and reliability of those trains to perform from Detroit to Chicago and make it a much more enjoyable trip for everyone, so that the handicapped or the physically impaired can actually get onto the trains without having that long and sometimes inefficient use of the crank lift that gets them up onto the train. So there are a lot of great things that are happening along this corridor. We kind of had a little marathon of station openings, we called it. I think that Tim Hefner, our director, and Therese Cody, our facilities manager for the train stations. They attended 4 openings within 4 months of each other. So we're definitely on the right track for trying to provide the reliable service for all parties.
How long would a trip from, after this is all built and up and operating, what would be the timeline from a trip from Detroit to Chicago?
Depends how often it stops, but it could be 3.5 hours in an express.
Yeah, like the up to 110 miles an hour, that's really dependent on the track geometry, especially when we get around like the Kalamazoo River and the Huron River. The corridor for the rail goes along that same alignment to the river system. So the curves don't really allow us to get up to that ultimate speed. However, wherever it is feasible, we will be trying to achieve 110 miles an hour, which will make us competitive with vehicle travel, which, then you don't have the headache of trying to get through either to downtown Detroit, which hopefully, the M1 rail will connect you from New Center to the downtown area and the People Mover, or if you're going into Chicago, you get right into Union Station and you're able to get on the L. So the connectivity between those 2 cities is just going to be amazing once it's done.
Good.
Yeah, good. Anything else? Okay, great. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Sure, Bill.
Chairman, I know there's contact numbers on here, but I would prefer, unless it's an emergency, that if you have any questions or comments, that they can go through my office, so I'm aware of what's going on. Okay?
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks, Bill.